Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Here we go for our last session of the day. It's been a great day. And now we have, kind of the denouement, really the most important session in some respects, which is our social justice panel, where we're going to talk about how eDiscovery makes a difference, not only for improving the litigation process and the attainment of justice for those that are well-heeled, but how do we use justice electronic discovery to obtain a broader sense of social justice in a pro bono capacity? There's crying need out there. We need to address it, and we've got a panel this year that's going to talk about that, because all of us want to be involved. We all want to do good, and that's the nature of our profession and the nature of our personalities. So Mary, would you run with your panel, please? I'd like to introduce Mary Mack, the head of EDRM, who's going to lead this panel. Thank you so much. Mary?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. I want to welcome you to the Social Justice and the eDiscovery Community Response with opportunities, paid and pro bono. We've got a fabulous group of panelists here, and I'm going to be introducing them as well. And what a group. This is just amazing. So with us, we have, from the top to the bottom, in no particular order, we have the illustrious Ian Campbell, the president and CEO of iConnect. He'll be doing a demo of some technology that's been used in the social justice context a little bit later. We have Kenya Parrish-Dixon, the general counsel and COO of Empire Technology Risk Management Group. Rose Hunter-Jones, partner, King & Spalding. And Scott Milner, he of the wonderful video songs that you will find on the thing that they call the YouTube, a partner at Morgan Lewis. This, we make a living by what we get, we make a life by what we give, from Winston Churchill, is something that Scott provided to our panel to ground us in the information that we'll be giving to you. Our agenda includes our own journeys and then what various law firms are doing around pro bono. We're going to have Ian show us the technology that's been used at the University of Richmond. And then we're also going to talk about non-litigation pro bono and some of the social justice implications of the technologies that are being used. At the end of our session, we'll review some of our resources that we've provided for you. That's a download on the conference website. And of course, during our whole session, please answer questions as you will, or ask your questions, I should say, to us as you will. So to get going, I'd like to ask our panelists to tell, how did you get here? And Scott, we will start with you.
Thank you, and the wise words of Terminator, I'm back. So last panel, but proud to be part of this one. This one means a lot to me. When you go to law school, for me, it was coming out and just paying my debt and law school debt, and then I realized I could give back and make a difference. And a lot has happened over the last few years to really inspire me to not only personally give back from a pro bono perspective related to social justice projects, but give opportunities for my team. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, over 50 technologists and 100 dedicated lawyers that are focused in eDiscovery that may not know how to give back or didn't know exactly where to volunteer their time. So it was really exciting for me about why I wanted to get involved and really build a program around using their expertise and skills. But as the first slide said, and the quote really means a lot, that you go through all of this and all this effort, it's so nice to be able to actually touch and impact people's lives and give them access to justice.
That's fantastic, Scott. Kenya, how did you find your way to pro bono and social justice work?
Well, I was in law school, and I went to the College of William and Mary. I'm not a University of Florida grad, I'm sorry. And we had an organization called the First Amendment Institute that I tried out for. Basically, was a moot court argument about a particular issue, and the judges in the state would come for this moot court argument, and it was freshmen. And I signed up for this thinking, okay, well, we're going to argue a social justice, issue for the university, not just for the law school, but the entire university and the Colonial Williamsburg community. And the issue was whether or not LGBT families should be allowed to adopt children under the law. And I was a young person, and I didn't have an opinion about this. I thought, oh, wow, this is a very interesting issue. I did all the reading, and so my side of that argument was to argue in favor of LGBT families being able to adopt. And we did that on the main campus in front of thousands of people. There were news cameras there. There were judges from around the state there. There were judges that participated in the moot court activity. And that really gave me an understanding of how years before we actually saw the laws come into place, how something like that can influence where legislation is going and how people feel about something, because we made those arguments. And I did after that a lot of pro bono work and a lot of social justice work when I was in law school. It was very gratifying, and a lot of that work has meaning today.
That's fantastic, Kenya. Thank you. And Rose, how did you find your way to social justice and pro bono?
Well, Mary, first of all, I want to say that I think today the presentations have been fabulous, and I think it just shows the breadth of knowledge that an eDiscovery lawyer professional has. And there are many opportunities for us to be able to share that knowledge and help others. For me, my question is always, why was I put on this earth, and what was I meant to do here? And one thing that we can do as lawyers is we can help close that justice gap, because there are many in this country that do not have access to legal services and that are in desperate need of them. And so for me, it was always trying to find that opportunity of how I can bridge that legal gap. How can I take the knowledge that I have and share that with others? And honestly, you can literally change lives, and I've seen it. I've represented refugees, domestic violence victims, children, and in every instance, it's heartwarming. You build relationships, and it helps you feel that you have a purpose in this world. We're all very busy. We're all incredibly successful, but at the end of the day, from my perspective, it's not worth anything if you don't do your part to make a change in this world, to make it a better place.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rose. And Ian, you've been doing this work for many, many years.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other panelists talked about bringing their knowledge and their education to the table, and certainly inspiring others to follow suit. We have a little bit of a different asset. We've got a piece of technology, and I think one of the challenges for people who don't have the facilities to find a large law firm to represent them, or maybe in some cases a law firm to represent them at all, is that access to technology becomes a barrier to leveling the playing field. And I think that's the one thing that we're very excited about at iConnect. We've been involved in a number of different pro bono projects. We have a vendor channel of about 40 different vendors around the world, all of whom are very conscious of wanting to make a difference. And so we provide iConnect technology to those groups so that when they take on a pro bono project, they can work with the lawyers here on the phone today and their counterparts, but we can also provide them with the technology, which ultimately, as I said, levels the playing field between what they can now achieve with similar tools, and hopefully at the end of the day, justice wins out.
Fantastic, Ian. And when we talk about pro bono in the law firm context, many times it's helping people with housing or eviction, or immigration, or some domestic violence has been talked about. But with eDiscovery Pro Bono, it's a little bit different. Scott, can you tell us what the experience was of your team as you approached it and how you evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to start off by just saying I'm so thankful to be part of a firm, and I know all of my co-panelists are thankful to be part of organizations that really support the giving back. And our firm has had a long-standing tradition of participating in pro bono. And when I saw, and if you don't mind just going back to go to the next slide, Mary, for me, but what I saw is that I saw, there was a problem. And if you look at the picture on the left is, there was just, we were a square peg in a round hole with some of the skill sets that the people on my team. They felt, how do I really give back? Maybe I'm not comfortable setting up a 501c3, or maybe I'm not, comfortable going and arguing a motion to a judge on these issues, but I'm really good at leveraging technology. I'm good at analyzing other data. I may not even be a lawyer, but I want to help. So what we did is we really took an opportunity to look at those opportunities and what can we do? So we started to work with a lot of our colleagues that were taking on matter where there's exchange of data. And we started to host data in our, in our data center, apply analytics, used, fact gathering systems and tools that put chronologies together. And it was just exciting for my team to feel like I can give back now. So, a couple of examples, and we were helping really put the puzzle together, which is why I joke about the solution on the right side is, a lot of people were just feeling like, I don't know what to do, but now that they knew that their skill set could be part of a solution, everybody wanted to do that. And I'm proud to say that 100% of my team dedicates at least 20 hours to pro bono a year, and many of it on social justice type projects. If you don't mind, go to the next slide. Part of that skill set, Mary, that I think really brought us and my team to the forefront of helping is a lot of the matters that we're dealing with aren't just traditional emails and other data. It was a lot of the data that we talked about today: short messaging, video surveillance data, audio data, handwritten notes. Because a lot of times we're not talking about corporate data sets, and they loved it. They were putting together complex workflows to ensure that we could tackle and mine data. We were applying analytics platforms to tell the story. We were layering data on top where we were taking and actually taking video clips with police reports and the audio and giving all of them together in one piece to say, this is actually what happened from 10:30 a.m. to 10:50 a.m. It wasn't, very siloed and independent thinking. It was, how do we layer the data? And for my team, that's what got them really excited. And obviously, as a partner and one of the leaders of the practice, it got me excited to see them so interested in actually showing access to justice. So that's really my story, and that's, you can tell I'm a little bit passionate about it because when I see over 100 people loving the idea that they're able to give back and leverage their skill set, it gets me excited. It makes me proud to be part of that team.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Rose, at King and Spalding, did you have a similar situation, or was yours a little bit different?
So it's similar, and I have to say too, Scott, it's just an absolute honor to be a part of a firm that places so much importance on giving back to the community, on pro bono work. We have a partner whose sole purpose at the firm is to oversee our pro bono services and ensure that our firm has access to different opportunities. And so, I mean, it starts at the very top with our chairman, and it's just something that's incredibly important to our firm. And so I'm very blessed to be a part of that and have opportunities. And so for me, starting out as a young lawyer in eDiscovery, it's just, how do I use that skill set? I tried to do like eviction defense work, and then I got in there and I got nervous, and I was like, I'm scared these people are going to be out on the street because I don't know what I'm doing. And, it's hard because you don't have that skill set to quickly leverage on your experience. And so trying to identify areas where you can come in and bring that added value, because we're all busy. And so it's very difficult to learn a new skill set as you're trying to provide help to others. And so trying to find where I can quickly pivot, quickly bring in my knowledge and my experience, that has been, for me, a very difficult thing to identify. And so one way that I was able to give back to the community is leverage my contacts and leverage my networking skills and be able to do charity events to raise funds for various programs. So that's one way that you can also give back. But most recently, I've been involved one of my partners reached out to me and said, hey, we're working on this pro bono matter. It started when COVID first happened, and there were detainees in ICE who were not being properly social distanced, and there was significant COVID, instances of getting COVID, and so we were trying to figure out a way to implement safe social distancing protocols, but we were also trying to get the detainees released. And so we've been actually very successful in that and have made some great progress in getting some released, changing some of the COVID protocols. And so the way I was able to help there was leveraging just my standard eDiscovery skills. It wasn't exciting new technology, but it was working with the government to help them understand how we needed to receive the data. I was able to leverage a relationship with one of my good eDiscovery partners. They hosted the data for us on a pro bono basis. Costs were incredibly minimal, and so we were able to have approximately 50 to 75 document reviewers go in and look at these files, and as you can imagine, they're medical records, they're hard copy, and so they are things that I can leverage my skill set on, and I can guide others who want to assist, because others want to be able to help as well. And so just getting the data organized in a fashion where they could go in and start doing the analysis so that they can prepare for the negotiations and the depositions and the trial and the hearings. And so, it was really exciting for me because I finally found kind of my niche, and I'm hopeful that there will be other similar opportunities. But there's also other ways that you can help that are very short-term time frames, and those can also be great to find as well. So one program I was involved in was the Truancy Intervention Project, and that's just getting partnered with a child in your local community who's having trouble, getting to school. And one of the kids that I worked with, he was so precious that he just didn't have an alarm clock, and his mom had to go to work early. And so it was as simple as making sure he had the proper tools that he needed in order to be able to get himself to school. And so oftentimes it can be dealt with in a very quick manner. It's not really something that requires a lot of legal analysis. And so finding ways to give back, there are many, many opportunities. It's just being willing to go out there and try to find the right one. And I'm really excited because I know today, Mary, you have worked incredibly hard to pull some of those resources together. We definitely will be sharing with those with the panel, the attendees today, so you can see some of the available opportunities that are out there.
Well, interesting that you've framed it that way. We have a question from the audience about for the panel on how people would get involved, how they would find the case, how would they find the technology, and the people that were competent to do that. And I was reminded to mention that EDRM does have a pro bono initiative. It was a project. It's been elevated to an initiative because it's of key importance to all of us. So anyone who's interested, info@edrm.net for that. And then, as Rose mentioned, we have a resource sheet that is just chock full of opportunities, not only for licensed attorney professionals, also for paraprofessionals and for eDiscovery, IT, security professionals, all of everybody will find some opportunity there. But most importantly, we have resources for students to take a look at. We'll cover that. In a little bit here. But before we do that, we are going to have a demonstration of the technology that was applied, as I said earlier, to the University of Richmond. And Ian, can you give us some background? And while you're doing that, I'll stop my share so that you can start yours.
Don't stop it quite yet, because I just wanted to talk a little bit in context on this project. To Scott's point, it's not always documents, it's not always document review. Sometimes it's just straight horsepower. You need people to do some work. And sometimes it's not overly complicated. I'm going to show you in a second some of the work that was done with University of Richmond. As I think everyone on the phone knows, there was a racial protests in the fall of last year, actually in the summer of last year. Richmond, Virginia became a flashpoint of that, specifically the Rotunda area of the university. And they captured hundreds of hours of CCTV and body camera video. They had about 100 videos. They had about 70 reviewers that they estimated needed to get through it. And ultimately, their goal was to look at the video and see if they could find inappropriate conduct by the various parties involved in those altercations. And if you could flip that over now, Mary, that would be great. And ultimately, what we did was we provided the technology to be able to do that. So I'm just going to, I think it defaulted back over to Dustin, maybe. We'll try again. There we go. And that one there, and share. And Mary, can you see an iConnect screen? You can? Okay, good. Okay, good. It's going to jump in then. I don't want to spend too much time in product, but I think some people on the phone today are kind of wondering, well, what do I do? I mean, maybe I don't know the platform. I'm getting involved in something. It's an education opportunity for starters. You do get to learn new technology, and maybe this technology makes its way into your everyday legal life as well. But ultimately, what I want to do is just walk through for a second and show you what an experience looks like for a reviewer on this specific project. So first thing you do, you decide what language you want to go in as. If in fact your primary language isn't English, you can choose your language of choice, and you can go in as a Russian today, for example, and all of the instructions in the system will in fact be in your language of choice. What I'm going to do today, though, is to just jump in. There are a series of projects on this system. I'm going to go into that social justice video project. And when I go in here, what you'll start to see is this is evidence that was loaded. Think of it from a standard eDiscovery platform scenario where data was loaded from hard drives, from body cameras, from CCTV, from vendors. It was all loaded into the system. Sometimes it's documents, sometimes it's photos, sometimes it's video. And I think that's the interesting thing from all of our perspectives is that evidence is just evidence. It's information that people have to get through. So I'm going to choose a video here and just show you quickly. I did leave the sound off, so you hold on for 1 second here. Actually, that's fine. So basically, as we go through here, this is a video. It's the Richmond police. There's some bystanders. The car's trying to get through. It can't really get through. So you as a reviewer, your task is to identify, well, what's the incident here? So the car is backing up. Now the car is going to go over the lawn. And at that point in time, you as a reviewer might want to go, oh, wait a minute, right about here, there's an incident. Maybe the car is going to knock someone over. Maybe the car shouldn't be on the lawn in the first place. But ultimately, as a reviewer, you get to go in and create a comment. So I might create a comment here, in and around vehicle and intrusion. So ultimately, all I've done is gone and created that. Now, what happens here is as well, we're actually storing a timestamp. So we now know, to Scott's point about the fact that if I have hours and hours and hours of video, can I go in now and find a clip? Can I make a note on a clip? And ultimately, I may do some coding. I might have to go in and say something about the scene, identify whether or not redactions should be laid onto the video, because there may be some private information here, identify whether or not it's a potential exhibit in a project. So all of these things for you as a reviewer, you're simply being asked to go in, and whether it's documents that you're going to read or video that you're going to watch. Here's one here, for example, that as we go through this is a 9-minute video or a 10-minute video. So the first person who goes through this video may in fact have to go through and sort of make some pauses, make some comments. You can see here, a person went through this and said, well, there was a red car. That's kind of important. And right about here, somebody started to talk about the fact there's a verbal notification about unlawful assembly. Right here, we've got someone saying, okay, guys, everybody needs to put their cameras on. And then at this point here, someone said, oh, you know what, this has to be redacted. The kind of thing you would come here, find something in the coding area and go, yes, this needs to be redacted, get sent out for redaction and brought back again. So ultimately, the goal here is to go and review the documents, review the video, review the audio files. In fact, the audio is also stored as a waveform. So if you knew there was a certain point where there was very kind of dead air and then there was an incident, you can go and do that. But ultimately, the goal here is to be able to identify areas for redaction. There's a transcript which is held on on every one of these, so the audio is converted to text with timestamps, and ultimately all of these items become part of some kind of an evidence bundle. So that at the end of the day, you set up a folder called important, you start dragging and dropping information into that folder, and you've done your job. And again, your participation in a project like this, and I'll just turn that back over to you, Mary, right here. Stop the share. Ultimately, your role within this project may not really be that complicated. It may be a matter of adding your expertise, your ability to synthesize information, make good determinations based on coding information and a coding direction which has been given to you by the group organizing the review. But again, it doesn't have to be complicated. Do not be intimidated by getting involved in a project. You're going to be using a tool like an iConnect system. It's very easy to use, and ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to be able to move things in the right direction and level the playing field.
Fantastic. Thank you. Evidently, we're not moving here. So let me see if I can get this going. There we go. So Kenya, Ian was demonstrating video review that also relies on some facial recognition. What have you found in your research and your reading on the subject of facial recognition in particular?
So facial recognition is connected in some ways to eDiscovery, obviously, because a lot of times facial recognition software is being used in order to find a face for either some sort of crime or some other purpose. It's often being used by the federal government, and it's become a really hot issue as of late. Just last week, 40 civil rights organizations sent a letter to President Biden asking that he do something immediately to ban the federal government from using facial recognition software. That letter is attached in the resources section of this presentation. You can read the letter, but at the bottom of that letter, you're going to see all 40 of those organizations that are there. And so those are organizations that are actively fighting against the use of facial recognition software by the American government that you may want to go work with, because each of those organizations is trying to stop. They're one side of this issue. A lot of things have happened in the last couple of years with regards to facial recognition software. There was recently an MIT study that was done that showed that when it comes to facial recognition of white male faces, it's close to 100% accurate, but when it comes to black people or black women, it's like 37% to almost 40% inaccurate. The study is attached here. Mary, if you go back to the previous slide, I'd appreciate it. One of the interesting things is that we've already started to see our government use facial recognition software. So ACLU has participated in a fight for Mr. Robert Williams, who was wrongfully arrested on his front lawn, I think last year or year before last, in front of his children for committing a crime of stealing watches someplace, and they used facial recognition software and determined that he just looked like all the other black men in the Detroit area. The software did not accurately match up him with the person that they were looking for. And so ACLU got involved in that. There was another case of Mr. Willie Allen that is also attached in the resources section here. Willie Allen, I believe, was in New Jersey and was an individual who was wrongfully identified as having driven a vehicle someplace and committed a crime, and Mr. Lynch doesn't even drive. So he was wrongfully arrested and charged with a crime that he didn't commit based solely on facial recognition software. The FBI and ICE have been using driver's license photos. They've been going to driver's license offices and subpoenaing all of the photos and using them to deport immigrants. Many states and jurisdictions have decided that they're not going to participate in this. And so one of the locations that you'll find that had came out immediately and said, we're not going to participate in this at all, was San Francisco. They said, no, we're not going to give the FBI, we're not going to give ICE, any of these photo driver's license photos, because we don't want you to use it for this purpose. Mary, if you go to the next slide, you'll see here on this slide there are other resources for you to look at. But the interesting thing about facial recognition software is there's a lot of litigation around this. And so attached to the resources section are internships, pro bono opportunities, lawyer requests, just tons of opportunities to work with different organizations that really are looking for somebody to help them. The ACLU in Florida is looking for people to assist them with criminal justice, immigrants' rights, juvenile justice, LGBTQ+ rights, police practices. The Innocence Project, which you may be familiar with, is for people that are on death row that have been wrongfully convicted. They are always looking for people to assist. They have an intern and an extern program. The Center for Privacy and Technology at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. has multiple programs for you to participate in. And I think that Bill Hamilton put out the information about the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which really is looking for a lot of attorney assistance with regards to how data is used. And they're looking for lawyers. They have a cooperating attorney list. They have internships. So there's so many opportunities if you really want to be involved in technology and data and social justice. Some of those opportunities are here. Some of them are in the resources section. Again, if you go back to the letter that was written to President Biden, there are 40 organizations listed at the bottom of that list.
That's fantastic, Kenya. Thank you. And in addition to facial recognition, we've got algorithmic bias issues. We've got our platforms are definitely trying to organize themselves in a way that moderation can happen and that there's fair access. These are things that attorneys oftentimes get involved in and help structure. And so we do want to encourage you to take a look at the resource list. If I could give you a brief overview of that, in addition to the resources that Kenya included in her session about ACLU, EFF, and the rest of them. For students in particular, we have some resources, and actually any attorney who's thinking about changing jobs. There is an organization called the NALP, the National Association of Law Placement. They have a database of legal employers, and you can search. Let's say you're really interested in being an intellectual property attorney, an IP attorney. You can search for firms or organizations with that specialty, and you can compare them in the NALP database as to what is their pro bono program like. So if you also want to do pro bono, in addition to your substantive area, you can see how many hours, do the hours count towards your billables? Is there, as Rose said at King and Spalding, is there a full-time person that is attending to this, and things of that nature. There's also something called the PSJD database that is also listed there, that it has public service jobs, and you can actually put in the search legal technology, and it will pop up opportunities for you in that regard.
Mary, can I add one more?
Oh, Kenya, you can always add one more.
Thanks. The Association of Corporate Counsel also has locations in multiple jurisdictions around the country. Usually it's an office in each of the 50 states. They have an office in Florida. I don't know where that office is located, but they advertise and help corporations find interns and attorneys to work with them during the summer and during the school year on different issues. Many of those issues are not strictly social justice related, but many of them might be technology related. And so that's a good place to go and look for technology related pro bono work.
And I know you were going first. I'll go after you.
Okay, so one thing I just want to say too is that, I know we're talking about our eDiscovery skills, but you should also think about what's important to you and put yourself in others' shoes and just understand that there are people out there that are suffering and they deserve to be treated with dignity and they deserve to be treated with respect. And oftentimes that is not happening. And we can make a change. And I will never forget, I was working on a matter with a family that had been separated at the border, and the mother was trying to be reunited with her child, and it was a 1-year-old infant. And I was in Germany, away from my family, on a business trip, and it was about midnight in Germany, and I missed my child so much. And we had a call, and we were talking about what we were going to do, what our next steps were, and I realized this is exactly how that mother feels. But I am missing my child, and it's because of a choice that I've made. And obviously it was a choice that she made as well, but at the end of the day, I could empathize and I could understand that feeling of wanting to get back to your child, and it just drives me more and more to want to do what's right in order to help people be reunited or be able to have access to the things that they need. I also love my children dearly, and I would do anything for them. If they were suffering, if they were struggling, there's nothing in this world. There's no mountain that's too high for me to climb. There's no river that's too wide for me to swim through. And so you just have to understand that there's certain situations in people's lives we can't understand. And at the end of the day, they're doing what's best for their family, or they're doing what's best in that certain situation. And so, just think about what's important to you. That might not be important to you, but if you're going to do anything in life, you should do it with passion. And so find something that speaks to you, find something that you're going to continue to want to participate in, because that's what really drives your participation in these pro bono projects, because it is extra time away from your job, extra time away from your family. So it has to be something that drives value to you as a person.
It's hard work. It's hard work. And Scott?
A question.
Yes, we do. We have a question from the audience, and then Scott, I'll come over to you. So the question is, we need the social justice pro bono resource list, and please email it to us all. They're taking pictures, but a list would be helpful. And the list is on the resource download page for the conference website. A full list. It's 3 pages. And so what you saw was just an excerpt of that list, and that is totally available to you. And Scott, you had a question or comment?
2 things. I mean, one, I can't echo what Rose said anymore. I mean, we obviously started this off and try to tie it to like the eDiscovery profession, but just giving back in general, this picture, give back, it feels good. It really does. I've had some personal experiences. Some of my proudest moments being a lawyer have been emails from pro bono clients thanking me for getting them something they would have never been able to do on their own. I was able just to secure citizenship for somebody. Sadly, last year I would have been able to actually attend the hearing, the swearing in with them, but unfortunately due to the pandemic, I couldn't. But just to get that note from the person just thanking me about how excited they are to be a U.S. citizen now is just heartwarming. And then the other comment I really want to make is we wanted to share with you that yes, these technologies are out there, and maybe they look too good to be true, and maybe you feel like you don't have the ability to get access to those technologies. There are many providers. There are many technology providers like Ian. There are many service providers, including many people who have presented at the UF eDiscovery conference this year, that absolutely partner with their law firms, their clients, solos to give back. Just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. I think most people are interested in finding ways. And just like you may not know how to find your resources, sometimes there may be partner providers that have the technology, don't know where to find the people to go ask to say, hey, take advantage of my technology, take advantage of the opportunities that we'll give to you to actually give back there. So, my takeaway on some of this, just ask. You'll be surprised how many people are willing to go out on a limb and try to help. and give back.
Mary, we've got a question from from someone that says, what impact is Electronic Privacy Foundation having on these privacy issues? That's an interesting question because Electronic Privacy Foundation's take on the privacy issues is really being, we're seeing that in the news on a daily basis. Recently, there was a major hack of a security company that takes the video, you know, when you put the cameras outside your house or you have recordings, and they were collecting all of this video, and the video was hacked. And so the video was hacked, but in the meantime, it was revealed that a lot of this data was in health facilities, was in hospitals, was in corporations, were in women's facilities, just all over the place. These cameras had been placed, and it was streaming this data back into an environment, into a cloud environment, and then all of that data was being was breached. The interesting thing about that is that a lot of that data was also being used for facial recognition software, to be leveraged, if you will, with facial recognition software. And so the issue about facial recognition software is going to continue to be litigated, in a sense, on a case-by-case basis about whether or not people should be able to opt in or opt out of the way their photos are being used, but also what federal laws are we going to see, what state and local jurisdictional laws we're going to see, and a lot of that is going to come down to who gets involved and how passionate people are on both sides of those arguments. On January 6th, we saw that the Capitol was breached, and it was facial recognition software that was used to identify a lot of those people. And so a lot of people think that was a good thing, but did those people, did they sign up to have their pictures and all of their video used in facial recognition software? Ian showed that a lot of the users of this software really are the police, the federal government, for different investigations. So this is something to consider. Where do you fall, and what side of these issues do you want to be involved in? And so that's I think the Electronic Privacy Foundation is saying they don't really want facial recognition software to be used, particularly since the algorithms are incorrect and really don't find black and brown faces with a large amount of accuracy. And until the algorithm is fixed, they're not going to be able to litigate whether or not the software should be used across the border. So these are issues to come, much like the LGBT issues that I faced, in 1812 when I was in law school. These are issues for the future for people to get involved with.
But I think the interesting thing, Kenya, is that the work that you've done on pro bono projects has benefited you in your practice and in other jobs. I mean, I think it's the 10,000-hour rule. The more you do it, the more expertise you gain in it. And whether you're using a technology tool, you're involved in a case, you're talking to different people, you're hearing different issues, you're working on projects that are maybe outside your comfort zone. Every minute that you spend on any project, be it pro bono or not, is continuing to advance your career and continue to advance your expertise within your legal practice. And I think it's important for the group on the phone today to realize that the time you're spending is not time wasted. It's time that has a double benefit. It's benefiting those that you're working for and with, but it's also benefiting you in the long term by giving you that extra level of exposure to technologies, people, and opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have another question, and the question is, although my organization is taking steps down the social justice path, what advice can you give to those who want to advocate for pro bono and diversity, equity, and inclusion work within their respective companies? Rose or Scott?
I would say, just go to your direct report or anyone who is involved in community outreach and let them know what you're interested in. See if you can build a program. Oftentimes there's no program because there's just not someone who's there to be the one to oversee it or get it started. So I would look at the resources that Mary has provided, see if there's something that interests you, something that you want to kick off for your company, and then talk to somebody at your company who can help you get it started.
And the only thing I'll add is maybe finding a partner at a client. And you know, we had some good chats as well. I know our firm, we partner with a number of our clients to do a joint pro bono delivery program. So, you know, maybe, you know, if you're at a service provider or you're at another organization, you could go to your law firm or go to your in-house counsel and say, hey, I'd like to give back. This may be a very interesting way to do it. And you know, maybe that's another way to get the support, combining with people, because you know, that's building relationships, and those memories and the success that you have, those are going to stick with you forever.
Well, yeah, and to your point earlier, Scott, I mean, you said just ask. Ask your vendor, ask your partner, ask your clients, and I think you'll find people are willing to give, and people are excited about getting involved. It can be very much of a bonding experience for the entire group as a whole. So I think you're absolutely right. I think you just have to ask, but at the same time, somebody has to champion it. Someone says, I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to bring to the partnership group or the board an initiative, and I've done a little bit of homework, and here's what I think we can achieve. And maybe you don't sit around and wait for someone else to do it. Maybe you just champion it yourself.
Yeah, Kenya, did you see any differences in the getting backing for pro bono and social justice work? You've been in the government, you've been in private practice, you're in a corporate environment now, and I think you did some service provider, if I recall. So do you see any differences in how you might approach that?
So, you know, in the federal government, they have this huge campaign, one for giving and the other for doing, and you get points for all the work that you do, and you're recognized. They give awards. The federal government is really very big on asking its employees not just to give to the country, but then to give back to your communities. So that's, you know, that's really something that's really very a driving sort of program in the federal government. In law firms, I find that you usually have some sort of pro bono organization where you get credit for so many hours. Corporations seem to not be as equal in the way that they figure this out. And so it really takes, as Rose said earlier, going to the organization and saying, look, I know this is a for-profit entity, and the idea is that we work for the shareholders, right? It's not a government entity, it's not a state or local entity. You're not a lawyer, a licensed person who has this special skill set. The corporation is a private entity. And so what you'd like to do is take some of those resources and not just donate, but use some of your time, some of the time that you're donating hours to a church organization or some other not-for-profit organization, that what you'd like to do is be able to get some credit for that a day or two a year in your organization. I've never heard of a corporation saying no. So I think it's really is just a matter of going to leadership and saying, I think we have an obligation to do this. How can we start this conversation and working towards figuring that out? Because I think, you know, social justice and pro bono work is something that everybody should try to do. If you're not lawyers, you're not doing pro bono, but you certainly can do volunteer work and get some credit for that.
Thanks, Kenya. And the list of organizations, which would also include probono.net and corporate pro bono, those are two great organizations. It's downloadable at the conference site, the University UF eDiscoveryconference.com /2021-resources / with a password of eDisco21 with the D capitalized, no hyphen in any of that. And I'm sure you'll get an email because everybody's resources from all these wonderful panels will be resident there. And as we're wrapping up, I want to thank Rose, Ian, Scott, and Kenya to contact us. We're all on LinkedIn, so please feel free. Download the resource sheet and get involved. Start the work. And with that, I will turn it to Professor Hamilton.
Well, thank you very much, Mary, and thank you very much, panel. It was a great panel, inspirational, and I think we've all got some direction to go with. So this is going to bring us to the conclusion of our conference this year. A unique experience in that, we've come a long way in our 8 years, and this is the first time we've done it entirely virtual. We had a great turnout, a great participation, and I think the audience and the panel have put it together very well. What do you think, George? Did we do good?
I think we done good. I want to make sure we extend our thanks to Dustin Howard and his team, the technical support team, who've made possible a very daunting challenge, putting on all of this from the technical perspective. The speakers, all of them who have spent countless hours preparing and, as you can see, delivered wonderfully today. The planning committee that has been working for so long to put this together. And, of course, to Bill Hamilton, without whom we would not have this conference at all.
Well, thank you very much, George, and it's a collective effort by all of us. There's a couple other people I'd like to thank.
One more note before you get to that, Bill. What
Okay.
you all probably don't realize is that Bill gets one evening off. And tomorrow morning, shortly after sunrise, he's got to get back to work to get this conference all prepared for next year.
Exactly. Round the clock, round the year. Thanks, George. I really appreciate everything you've done to make this conference the great success that it is. I'd also like to mention we had great support from the IT department here at the law school. Jared Petrell, Jared, are you available to come on and wave to the audience so we can thank you, as well as Michael Quinones? Thank you, Jared. Jared was here last night helping the studio that I'm in get set up, and I appreciate his diligence in working me through some of my anxieties. Michael, I don't know if you're available or not, perhaps not, but Michael Quinones of the Law School Technology Department was also great help. I'd also like to thank Ruth McElhaney. Ruth, I don't know if you're available to come on and wave to the crowd. Thank you, Ruth. Ruth works with the Dean's Committee, and there's a whole team there composed of Ruth and Whitney and others that have worked hard with this, and Stephanie Comstock to put this conference on. And finally, I'd like to thank Maribel Rivera, have her come on for a final wave. Maribel's done a yeoman's task here. Many of the graphics, many of the aspects of the website were done by Maribel, and she's always an inspiration with her creative flow of ideas. And you can thank Maribel for all the music. I had some somnambulistic songs I was going to play, but Maribel quashed that and got some rockin' music for us. So thank you very much, Maribel, for that, and thank you for always being there for us. And I have a couple other quick announcements. One, be sure to go to the resource page that was just mentioned by George Sosha. That's on the conference website. I think Mary Mack also mentioned that. The passcode for that is EDISCO. Just the D is capitalized, followed by 21. This will come out in an email tomorrow, so if you didn't write it down, you'll get an email about this. Additionally, I will send out information tomorrow about the CLE course number for the Florida bar. And then finally, we had videoed the entire conference, and it will be processed and available next week for online viewing for those of you that want to view sessions over again, or those that need to view it to meet the CLE requirements for Florida in terms of viewing the entire conference. So I think that wraps it up for us. George, well done. Thank you, my friend.
Bill, congratulations. Another year well done.
Okay, and that will conclude our conference. Thanks very much to everybody.